And I hope that you all take advantage of doing something that inspires some school spirit. And we've got some events lined up for you. One of the ones I wanted to mention was on Friday morning, the president has his president's coffee, and this will be taking place in Centennial Park this year at 9 o'clock. And so everyone is welcome to join that, community members, campus family members, and alumni. So please plan to meet Dr. Minner at 9 o'clock in Central Park. And then another event I want to tell you about, which is very pertinent to our guest speaker, is the Cowboy 5K. And Coach Bob DeVries and his track team have always been very supportive of this event, and we rely heavily on their expertise and their organization and help for this event. So the 5K is taking place Saturday morning at 8 o'clock. And if you can pre-register online from nmhufoundation.org, or you can just show up at 7 o'clock on Saturday morning and register. And the more the merrier. And we've got some great prizes and door prizes, and it'll just be fun to have all of you out there with us. And big thanks to Coach Bob DeVries and his team for helping us out with this event. So as we get started, please remember to mute yourself. I think Coach DeVries will probably be opening this up for questions at the end of his presentation. And at that point, you can unmute and ask your questions. And I will also want to thank Carol Litherland and Barbara Schaffer and the student interpreters that we have interpreting in sign language. So it's really great to have them here and to make this talk accessible to a bigger group of people. So without any further ado, I'd like to welcome Coach Bob DeVries and his talk about sleeping on the football field.
All right, thank you, Julie. So first of all, I do have a bone to pick a little bit with Julie because it is 9 o'clock on a Monday morning. And I know when I set my request in to speak, I didn't put 9 o'clock Monday morning. But I'm happy to start things off. I kind of feel like the teacher in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. You know, anybody? Is anybody out there? So, but I'm very happy to be part of these talks. I'll be honest. I don't feel as prepared as I should because I looked through the titles of several of the talks, and you know, there's some high-powered people and high-powered subjects, and my talk is going to be a little less high-powered, but maybe we'll get things started off. And you know, the theme for homecoming, back in the saddle again, like Julie said, we're trying to get things going. We have a home race. I do want to mention that Friday out at the golf course at 2 p.m. That's the afternoon before the alumni event Saturday morning. So if you're able to get out and support the cross-country team Friday, we would really appreciate it. So I am leading off. I'm going to try to do my best. I'm going to try to be like Ricky. And for you non-baseball fans out there, you
Well, we've lost Coach DeVries. Let's hope we can get him back. In the meantime, let me tell you about some more events. We have the Cowboy Lounge that's happening on Friday, and everybody is welcome to attend this as well. Currently, it's scheduled for outdoors. And depending on the weather on Friday, we may or may not have it outdoors. It may move indoors, probably into Stu Clark, right where Coach DeVries was sitting. Is he back? Yay, okay.
all right. Hey, so apologize for that. technical thing. But so what I'm gonna talk a little bit about today is sleeping on the football field. And the reason I put sleeping on the football field is because the original title of my adventure at Highlands and how Highlands changed my life and made me bleed purple forever, according to Shannon Dominguez, was way too long. So she made me shorten it to sleeping on the football field. And what it refers to is my origin story here at Highlands and how I came to New Mexico Highlands University and how Highlands did definitely change my life. You know, I'm sitting in the Hall of Honor and surrounded by a lot of pictures of people that, who have meant a lot to Highlands University. And when I travel around, I'm always struck by the stories of how people came to New Mexico Highlands University. And like it or not, if it's a good or a bad thing, I happen to think it's a good thing. You know, I think 90% of our students and people that I recruit, Highlands is not their first school of choice. You know, there's not a lot of people out there that are 14, 15 years old and they're just dying for the day that they step foot on the Highlands campus. You know, unlike some schools where people grow up wanting to go there. Now that's not a bad thing, but it makes us unique. And when I travel, ladies, when I travel around, I hear so many interesting stories and inspirational stories. You know, I didn't sit here on purpose, but when I turned around, I noticed that Sylvester Perez, Perez is right there. He's the president of the H Club. His story about how he came to Highlands is pretty amazing. And a guy who ran for me, Lauren Gira Camaro, going through genocide in his home country and coming to the United States and getting kicked out of another college and ending up here and being an All-American for us. Will Jeremko Wright, who came from back east and is still making a difference here at New Mexico Highlands as a professor. So there's so many of these stories out there about people coming to New Mexico Highlands and these origin stories. And they're very important. Origin stories are extremely important. I want to share another thing. My wife had to take our vehicle to Santa Fe recently, and she ended up some free time and she went to the movies. And she came home and she told me she went and saw the movie, and I'm gonna probably get the title wrong. I think it's Shang-Chi. It's a new Marvel movie. And I said, you went to that movie? And she said, yeah, it was great. And I started thinking about superheroes and why we appreciate them. And one of the things she told me was the kind of the backstory about it, and she really liked it. And I was surprised, but I started thinking, all these superheroes have backstories and origin stories. You know, Batman wasn't born Batman. Spider-Man wasn't born Spider-Man, but we appreciate them because they have stories. And it made me think that, and I don't know, maybe we all have the opportunity to be superheroes to something. We really do. You know, our kids, our grandkids. I have a 3-year-old grandson now, and the way he looks at me sometimes when we're out just looking for rocks, it makes me feel really special. Maybe you coach Little League or you know, you coach kids and they look up to you, or maybe you have somebody in your class that you know, if you're a professor, or maybe a coworker down the hall. You amaze every day with the work that you do and how you get it done. There's just a lot of superheroes out there, and we all have origin stories. We all have backstories. We all have stories to tell, and that have led us to where we are in life. And you know, I have three. I think of 3 heroes back in the day. I've been here since 1977. All right, 1977. Joe Pete Martinez, Rose B, up in the financial aid office, and probably the man who changed my life, made me go in a whole different direction. Dr. Mike Olson. He's a superhero in my life. Made me want to be a history professor, want to be a history teacher. And I did that for 30 years. And so being a superhero doesn't mean being up on the movie screen or that necessarily. You can be a superhero in so many different ways. And as superheroes, we all have our stories. So I'm going to talk about my origin story here at New Mexico Highlands University, how I ended up here. Shanna, a couple of people told me that it's an interesting story. I don't know if it is, but I hope that you find it interesting. And so I'm gonna share that story. When I graduated high school, way back, before probably a lot of you were born. Well, I don't know, are young people up this early watching? Probably not. But I could have gone to Yale. All right, I had an opportunity to go to Yale, and I didn't go to Yale. But you know what? When I think about Yale, I think about people that go to Yale. 90% of their origin stories or their stories are, yeah, I was really smart, I got good grades, I went to Yale, and now I'm the president. That doesn't interest me. That doesn't interest me at all. So the day after graduation, back in Wisconsin, rather than thinking about going to Yale, I got in a cattle truck and I drove to Arizona. Well, I rode to Arizona with a friend of mine who was taking a load of cattle, a dairy farm in Arizona. 3 different dairy farms from Wisconsin had moved lock, stock, and barrel to the deserts outside of Tucson, land that's now, I believe it's a PGA golf course now. So anyway, I was a good runner in high school. I wasn't a great runner. I was good, but I thought I was probably better than I really was. And I thought I could go to the University of Arizona. And this, make it short, that didn't work. I was working on the dairy farm, and part of my job was I had to go back and forth, either get cows or take equipment or go pick up equipment. And I still wanted to find some place that I could call home. And on one of my trips, I like to take different routes. And so on one of my trips, I came through Las Vegas. And when I say came through Las Vegas, this will bring back memories or be a history lesson for some. You may recall in the 70s, you could not go around Las Vegas. The interstate basically ended. If you're coming from Santa Fe, the interstate basically ended where the Holiday Inn Express is right now. And if you didn't see the signs and you went through the barriers, you ramped like vanishing point. So you had to come into Vegas. And I came into Vegas pulling a gooseneck trailer, and I saw a sign that said New Mexico Highlands University. I drove around the campus hauling that trailer, and I said, I like this area. I like this small school. I got back on the highway, went back, picked up some cows, went back to Arizona, and I started doing some research. I found out who the coach was, George Mays. I found out that they had a couple of really good runners the year before, but they didn't make nationals. 2 guys made nationals, but they didn't make it as a team. So maybe they needed some runners. I wrote a letter. We didn't have internet. So I wrote a letter, found a phone number. I talked to the coach. My boss told me about 3 weeks later, said, hey, I need you to go pick up some more cows. So I said, I'm in. And so I called George. I said, I'm going to be there. And he didn't remember me. And I showed up a few days later, and I drove up with a load of cows outside the swimming pool. George was the manager of the swimming pool. I said, hey, I'm Bob DeVries, and I'm here. I just wanted to meet you. And he goes, okay, good. He said, you want to go for a run? I said, sure. And he said, so he gets on the phone and he calls up somebody and he says, hey, Robert, I've got a guy here who wants to go for a run. Hangs up, and about 10 minutes later, a guy shows up, introduces himself as Robert Yata. Well, I knew from my research, Robert Yata had been an All-American the year before. NAIA All-American, 24th in the nation. I thought, wow, this guy's pretty good. And he says, let's go for a run. And I look down and he's wearing green Chuck Taylor high tops. And I say, are you going to change shoes? And he tells me, nope, I train in these all the time. Now, running shoes had just kind of become popular, or beginning to become popular. I was wearing the latest Adidas shoes that I had bought down in Tucson. We went out for a run up the Cinder Road. Back then we called it the Black Road. And we went around, went down past the state hospital, came back about and we go inside the pool and George tells Robert, well, what do you think? Robert tells him, I think he's pretty good. We can use him. And so George tells me, if you can be here in September, I'll give you a tuition scholarship. That's all I needed to hear. I said, I'll be here. I went back to Arizona. I resigned, said I was leaving, went back to Wisconsin, and started telling two of my friends about coming to New Mexico. They weren't interested. They had good jobs for the time. To be honest, I don't know how good a jobs they were. We're all bartenders because you could drink at the age of 18 in Wisconsin back then. So we were bartenders, and over the course of the summer, I wore them down, and I said, no, man, we got to go. You'll love it. We're going to go to New Mexico. And I convinced them. So September, because back then we were on the quarter system. So back then, September, we left Wisconsin. I was in the, I think it's maybe still one of the smallest cars on the map, little Cadet. Mike and Alex, my two buddies, they were in the truck, hauling most of our stuff. And we got on the road. And when we came over 7 Mile Hill outside Las Vegas, come from Tucumcari, we crest over that hill. And it had been a nice green summer, rainy summer. And you came over the hill and you looked down and it was green. And I pulled off the side of the road and they pulled up behind me and got out of the car and they go, what? And to this day, they still laugh at me because I got out and I said, look. And they said, what? I said, there it is. I said, there's what? I said, our future. Looking down at Las Vegas, looking down at the campus of New Mexico Highlands, there's our future. And we get together these days and they laugh at me. But the funny thing is, we're all still here. Mike just retired from a long-time career in coaching in northern New Mexico. Alex just moved back and bought a house recently that he's trying to renovate, 100-year-old house. And so we're all still here. I'm still here. So when I got out on that evening, or that afternoon rather, in September 1977, and I put my arms out and I said, look, there's our future. I wasn't lying. I wasn't lying at all. And if I can go back and think about it, it was a pretty good future. You know, things have gone pretty well for all of us. And it's because of New Mexico Highlands. So I'm going to get back to the title of my talk. And that's sleeping on the football field. So I'm gonna take a little walk, and I hope that my video person can keep up with me here. And we're gonna walk across the street and talk a little bit about what happened that first day in Vegas. So we come into Vegas. Come on, Faye. You keeping up?
Yes.
So we come into Vegas, and of course I want to show you around.
Thank you.
Of course, I want to show them around. So one of the first places we go is to the swimming pool. And we parked there by the pool. And George Mays happened to be there that day. And I came and introduced myself again because I think he had already forgotten who I was. And I said, I'm here and I'm ready to run. I had a great summer training. And George told me, good, I think I remember you. And so Alex and Mike got out And they said, well, what the heck are we going to do now? We had very little money. Of course, campus is a little bit different than Stu Clark. Stu Clark, where we just were, that was the gym. You know, this track back then was cinder. Man, I miss that cinder track. I really do miss that cinder track. So we came, we walked around campus, and we said, what are we going to do? Where are we going to spend the night? And what we decided we were going to do, since we didn't have enough money, or maybe we had enough money to get a hotel or motel, but we didn't want to waste our money on that. So we got something to eat, started getting dark. We rolled out our sleeping bags right here. Right there, that goalpost is. Of course, there was a different goalpost back then, kind of had the two things. And we rolled out our sleeping bags and we slept on the football field. We slept on that football field that first night in Las Vegas, and I'll never forget it. Next morning, we got up, we went and ate at the Spick and Span. It wasn't Charlie's Spick and Span. Back then, it was just the Spick and Span. It was much smaller than it is now. And we sat down, still not knowing where we were going to stay, thinking, are we going to have to sleep on the football field another night? And luckily, a guy in the next booth heard us talking. And we took the one that was $50 a month. And so we went from sleeping on the football field to finding a house for $50 a month. And I've been in New Mexico ever since. And New Mexico Highlands University changed my life. It brought me to where I am today. You know, I've been back here. I've been coaching here for 30 years. I didn't stay here. I went and coached for 10 years at a high school, coached everything, learned the craft of coaching. But when I had an opportunity to come back to New Mexico Highlands, I couldn't pass it up. And I volunteered to coach the cross country team, and the AD at the time, Rob Evers, told me, I can't let you volunteer. And I said, well, no, really, I want it. He goes, no, I got to pay you something. And so for $1,500 a year, I became the cross country coach at New Mexico Highlands University. I ran here. I graduated from here in 81, got my master's in 83, came back here. And it's because of the people that were here that I love New Mexico Highlands University. And it's because of the possibilities that I see here at New Mexico Highlands University. Even after 30 years, I still look around and see possibilities. And I hope that you all do too. And I hope that homecoming, you know, there's a reason that we come to homecoming. Or there's a reason that people get on talks like this that are during homecoming. And it's because we feel a connection to a place. And I will tell you that I'll never forget sleeping on the football field. I'll never forget it. And it connected me to New Mexico Highlands for my entire adult life. And I've appreciated everything that Highlands has done for me. And that's my origin story. It might not be as fantastic as some of yours, but I hope that you think about that and think about what brought you to Highlands. If you came here or if you work here, and think about how special that is to be connected to someplace. And so that's my talk about sleeping on the football field. And I appreciate your time. If anybody has any questions for me, I'll certainly answer them. I don't know that there's too much profound that you want to ask questions about, but thank you. Thank you, Julie.
Thank you, Coach. And yeah, I hope just unmute yourself if you have any questions, and I'm sure there are some.
Hi, Julie. This is David Luna.
Hi, David.
Hey, David.
Hey, Bob. I don't have a question, but just a comment that, first of all, Bob's done a tremendous job as a coach at Highlands, bringing up the cross country and the women's track. He's had the national champions. So, not only did he come to Highlands, he made an impact. And I also want to thank him because the two guys he brought, Alex and Mike, became my wrestling teammates back then. Al didn't quite finish it, but we had Big Mike there, and he kind of was the protector of all those little guy wrestlers. So,
Yeah, Mike was a heavyweight, and David was. They were on opposite ends of the spectrum in the weight classes.
And I want to say, Bob, that when we used to run down Cinder Road, because Coach would make us run, I hated running. So Mike and I would come in right at the end. So in spite of the fact that you loved it, me and Mike, man, we just couldn't endure that long miles. And I said, oh, if I become a coach, I'll never run that much in my life. But I just appreciate those guys. I know Al's back, and like you guys said, and for me also, Highlands became home. Not being coming from here, but the good people, everything that's happened, and just want to give you your accolades as well for what you've done. So thanks.
Thanks. David, I appreciate that. I have never been in coaching for any personal gain. And let me tell you, if you're a young person out there listening to this and you want to make money, don't become a coach. But the connections that you make with people and
Yes.
the difference that you can make as a coach, and that's why I have done it. That's why I have stayed in it, and that's why they ask me all the time when I plan to retire. I don't have any plans to retire soon. So
Yeah. Well,
thank
great.
you, David.
You bet,
Thank you.
Bob. Thank you, Julie.
Well, Bob, there are some messages in the chat, and most of them are just, great story, Coach. Fantastic connection. Thank you for sharing. And, real nice one. Highlands is so lucky to have you, and our kids were lucky to have you as a teacher in middle school. So I agree with that for sure.
I taught. My in-laws were here recently, and they come up and visit now and then, and they were out eating and they went fishing, and they told me, people know you everywhere. And I said, well, I did teach like half the town between the ages of probably, I don't know, now it's probably 30 and 50, I don't know, but I did teach about half of Las Vegas. So yeah, people know me around, and I've loved Las Vegas. I love Highlands. I want nothing but the best, and I appreciate all the people that I've met and worked with, coached. It's been my honor. It has been my honor to be a part of this, and so I appreciate that.
Well, we're the lucky ones.
Yeah.
Sure. And I remember for about a minute when I was probably in my early 40s, I ran with your cross country team just for
Yes.
fun. For fun. I don't know if that was it, but I was out there, and I think secretly you were motivating your students to, if you don't beat that old lady, you better, hang it up. So I hope I could help in some small way.
Hey, you know what? And I've evolved as a coach. I will tell you that, because you know Karen Topping,
Right.
and Karen ran for me. And when she wanted to come and run, I didn't know anything about her, but she contacted me, and she said, well, I'm a little bit older, and and I said, well, how old are you? And she said 38, and I know I blurted out, wow, that is old. And so I would probably never say that today, but back then I was young, and 38 did seem old. And man, maybe No, I don't think I'd like to go back to 38, but 38 was a long time ago, right?
So do we have any other questions for Coach DeVries, or should we let him get on with his day? Well, thank you so much, Bob.
right.
It's always a
Thank you, Julie.
pleasure, and you bring so much to Highlands, and we can't thank you enough.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I appreciate the time, and appreciate everybody that took time out of their day to listen to my story. So have a great day. Thanks.
Bye-bye.